Hello everyone and welcome to the penultimate round of the 2018 World Rapid Championship. We have an excellent game between Wang Hao and the Russian Grandmaster Danil Dubov. Before we get to the game, I do want to share a very interesting story. Peter Leko mentioned it in the live broadcast. I don't know if how many of you were able to catch it, but Leko said that when he was 8 years old, his teammates from the same chess club that were older than him played a little joke on him. They told him that they read in a Soviet chess magazine that from now on it's considered that castling is a waste of time and that he should not castle in his games. And he said that he was like, he didn't know what to make of it. And I mean, to play such a cruel trick on an 8-year-old boy, I don't know. I mean, they did tell him they were joking immediately, but still. I thought, what a nice sense of humor. A chess sense of humor, if you will. But getting back to this game, it's a game from round 14, so Dubov, having an excellent tournament so far without losing a single game, faces a very strong Grandmaster Wang Hao, and Knight F3 is used to open, the Reti opening. Knight to F6, we have C4, G6, G3, and the Bishop to G7. We have Bishop to G2, C6, and now D4. We have D5, Knight to D2, we have castles, and castles also by white. A5, B3, and now comes Knight to E4. Black is hoping to trade off the knights here, so the pawn can be used to kick away the knight from F3. And here we have Bishop to B2, white simply continues developing. And Bishop to F5. It's a nice square for the bishop, but of course it's not going to be able to stay there very long. We have Knight to H4 attacking the bishop, and now black is, decides to capture on D2. Knight captures, queen captures, and now comes bishop back to E6. Seems like an odd square for the bishop, blocking its own E7 pawn, but it's not really that big of a deal. We have F4 preparing F5, and this position was reached a few more times. There are a couple of games in the database with this exact same position, and most of the moves that black decided to play here was to prevent white from pushing F5. So F5 is a known move here, queen to D7 is a known move here, and also stalling some time with D captures on C4. But here Dubov plays knight to D7. It's a new move that was not played before. He actually allows F5, but knight to D7 is the strongest move recommended by the engine. So as this is move 12, I think it's safe to assume that Dubov is still within his opening preparation and that he really came prepared to this game. F5, I mean, who wouldn't play this? G captures on F5, knight captures, we have bishop captures, rook captures, and now E6, simply kicking away the rook. You might, of course you would enjoy if your rook could stay, for example, somewhere along these lines to be able to join the attack against the black king. But if you go rook g5, yeah, okay, you're not gonna fall to bishop to h6 as the bishop is pinned, but after f5, that rook is pretty much stuck there. The queen will have to stay there to guard the rook, and if you play h4, then black can simply move the king, and it will be very hard to get your rook out of there. So after e6, we have rook f to f1, rook f back to f1. And now black decides to go for f5, and here we have this very nice Stonehenge structure, which is, well, most of the times very safe for black, even though the kingside structure is a bit compromised. C captures on d5, we have c captures on d5, and now comes rook a to c1, taking a hold of the only open file on the board. Knight to f6, the e4 square is an excellent square for the black knight. Bishop to f3, not allowing ideas like perhaps knight to h5 and then pushing f4. We have a4 by white, a4 by black. Yeah, a4 by black, trying to crack open white's queen side. Queen to e3, going after black's e6 pawn, and now comes queen to d7, defending the e6 pawn. Rook to c2, and now a captures on b3. Queen captures on b3, and now comes rook a to c8, countering the white's rook on c2. Rook f to c1, and now we have bishop to h6, attacking the rook here, either asking why do you want to play e3 maybe, and then I will trade rooks here, or do you want to capture rooks immediately? White decides to trade immediately. We have rook captures on c8, rook captures on c8, and now rook to c5. Now, white, well, it's not really that dangerous if black captures on c5, but if white captures here, then you could imagine a scenario. It is a rapid game, you know, time is of the essence, so perhaps some a4, a5, a6 ideas will be possible where maybe white can sacrifice a pawn and then create a passed c pawn. But black decided not to go for this. The rook stays on c5, and we have bishop to f8, kicking the rook back. We have rook to b5, now with a double attack against the b7 pawn, rook to c7 defending, and now comes rook to b6, putting pressure against the e6 pawn. And there is some poison to the position if you're not careful. If you play a move like, let's say you move a knight to a weird square like g4, then you might fall to an idea like rook captures on e6, queen captures, bishop captures, here wins the queen. So okay, after rook to b6, we have knight to e4. It's a too powerful square for the knight, so you do have to eliminate it. Bishop captures, we have f captures on e6, and now comes king to g2. And okay, bishop to g7. Here we have this position where black is pretty much stuck guarding the b7 pawn. But on the other hand, if black is able to activate the pieces, then black should be better, as the white's dark square bishop on b2 isn't really doing all that much. And okay, we have rook to b5 by white, maybe going for ideas like rook to c5 to trade rooks, and now comes queen to f7. And here, black is hoping, as all of white's pieces are basically concentrating on the queen side, he's hoping for rook to h6. This will control the e3 square. He wants to push this pawn to e3. This will control the f2 square, and of course he wants to bring the queen over to f2. So how will white go about this? One such move that would be great would be queen to e3, not allowing this bishop to h6 move. Black would still have a better position here, but white would at least be able to fight. Here, after this queen to f7 move, we have rook to b6, but now after bishop to h6, it's very hard for white to play this game. You want to defend against such a scenario, so white tries queen to d1. Now trying to go for queen to f1 and trading queens, and well, here you could go pawn to e3 as planned. Bishop to e3 that was played in the game is even better. So now comes queen to f1, offering to trade queens, and now if you capture, king captures, yeah, you'd still be better, but you'd still be a long way of claiming this. As anything that can be pushed for a win. But here, Danil Dubov decided to go queen to h5, and now you have a lot of troubles here. The threat is rook to f7 to f2. Queen to h2, of course. So a lot of threats here. We have rook captures on e6, but there isn't really a better move. And now comes rook to c2, and here you can see that white is in a lot of trouble. The bishop on b2 is under attack, and there's no good way to defend, really. If you allow rook captures on e2, the queen is protecting that pawn. You could easily imagine being checkmated on h2, and here king to h1 is played, not allowing this rook captures on e2 to come with checkmate. If you tried this, you would. This is actually a trick. If Dubov tried rook captures on e2, it seems like there's no way to protect against queen captures on h2 checkmate, because the rook is protected, the bishop is controlling these two squares. But you would actually allow white a defense with rook to e8. Now you cannot go down with the king because of queen to f8. You would have to capture, and then white gets to capture the rook, and now it's pretty much a drawn endgame. With the black king being so open, white will always be able to continue checking the black king. Here king to h1 was played, but here Dubov simply played rook captures on b2, and now Dubov is up a whole piece. And there isn't much white can do here. We have rook to e5 attacking the queen, but now queen to f7. Now, of course, you are up a piece. You want to trade queens. Rook to f5 attacking the queen. We have queen to e6 getting out of the way. This allows a rook to f8 check, but rook to f8 check doesn't do anything. I mean, you're just going to move the king, king g7, and there are no more checks. If you move the queen, if you prepare anything, then well, you're gonna fall to rook to b1 check. But here, after this queen to e6 move, we have rook to e5 again attacking the queen, queen back to d7, and here queen to f6 was played, hoping to get some sort of an attack here, but it is far too late for such things. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find the winning idea for black. It's a forced checkmate, so it's not a very difficult one, as we've already mentioned it briefly, but do pause the video and try to figure it out. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent listener, as I already mentioned this move, but it's very important to see that the queen is covering the h3 square. So rook to b1 check, this was played in the game, and it was in this position that Wang Hao resigned the game. Because after you can either start giving up material, but with king to g2 you get rook to g1, and this is now checkmate, as well, these two squares are covered by the bishop and the pawn, and you have to see that the queen is covering the h3 square, so this is checkmate. So yeah, like we said, this was a game from round 14, a very nice and a very important victory for Danil Dubov, as it was with the black pieces, so everyone thought that he's going into the last round as the favorite. In the last round, Danil Dubov faced Shahryar Mamedyarov, but he again had the black pieces against Mamedyarov, but Mamedyarov played a very quick draw against him. So it was a very intense last round of the 2018 World Rapid Championship. Before I forget, here are the results after round 15. Let me just fix that a bit. There we go. So yeah, there you can see Danil Dubov winning the 2018 World Rapid Championship, the only player with 11 points. Then we have a lot of players with 10.5, not a lot, 4 players: Shahryar Mamedyarov, Hikaru Nakamura, Vladislav Artemiev, and Magnus Carlsen. Carlsen faced Nakamura in the final round of the 2018 World Rapid, and well, Nakamura tried playing a psychological trick on Carlsen, as Nakamura had the white pieces, and he quickly went for a line where Carlsen could either choose to go into a very drawish endgame or go into a worse position. Carlsen decided to go into the drawish endgame, and there was no way to push for anything there for Naka or for Carlsen. So that game ended in a draw without giving chances to either of them for a shot at the title. And it's very interesting. There you have Alireza Firouzja, who had a spectacular tournament, almost going all the way, but as you can see, the Iranian Grandmaster won 157.4 rating points, which is, I think, the most that anyone won in this tournament, so quite an achievement. Then you have Yu Yang-yi, Anish Giri. Anish Giri never met up with Magnus Carlsen in this tournament. That was a very anticipated encounter due to their, little skirmishes on Twitter. But who knows, we will have a lot of rounds of blitz, so I think everyone will meet up with everyone. Sergei Karakin also with a nice finish, 10 points. Then Tigran Levonovich Petrosian, Anton Korobov, Maxim Matlakov, Jan Krzysztof Duda, David Anton, Alexander Grishuk also with 10 points, Dmitry Yakovenko, Pavel Pankratov, those with 10 points, and then a lot of players with 9.5 points. You can see you have 9.5 out of 15, but you are already at 19th place. That's the strength of this tournament. Wang Hao, who lost this game to Danil Dubov, Alexander Zubov, Grigory Oparin, Gata Kamsky, Vishwanathan Anand also on 9.5. He was the defending champion, but it was not his tournament. But even, 9.5 in this competition and from 15 rounds is an excellent result. Kirill Alexenko and Daniel Friedman also with 9.5. Those are the first 25 players. So we are only going to show those, but just you go to chessresults.com and you can check out how everyone played. Congratulations to Danil Dubov on such a spectacular tournament. He didn't lose a single game, and interestingly, he drew his game against Magnus Carlsen. It was a fairly quick draw, but still quite an accomplishment. And as the title suggests, Magnus Carlsen did not announce who were his seconds for the World Championship match against Fabiano Caruana, and Danil Dubov was one of the secret seconds. Who was helping him prepare for the match and who was preparing him during the match. And when they asked Danil Dubov in an interview after the game, what are his thoughts on this entire tournament and winning the first place and everything, he said, nothing special. I don't think he was still feeling what just happened. but he didn't seem very impressed by that. It's like a very down-to-earth fellow, it seems. But yeah, also he mentioned that during this time he was preparing Carlsen before and after the and during the match. It seems that he said that in a joking fashion that it seems that Carlsen prepared him too much, and that winning first place here, it definitely shows what a great stuff it was training with the world champion. But yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I will try and do some other games from this championship. I'm gonna check out the women's section of the Rapids as well for some of the games from there. I would like to thank Ali Sharafi, Cody Johnson, Seymour Butts, Simon Johansson, and Jonian Grazdani for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, hopefully with some more interesting content. Thank you all, and I will see you soon.